Algebra I 13.4a using the quadratic formula. I really need you to watch videos 3.2b, 3.3a, 3.3b, and 3.3c. You're going to get confused if you don't know anything about quadratic equations or formulas, and that'll really help you, okay? You'll come back to this one and say, okay, I got it. So you could just check the video's description for links to these, and there's other helpful ones in there too. So whenever we solve a quadratic equation by completing the square, we follow the same steps. And by looking at these steps, we can find a formula to help us solve any quadratic equation. We just need to remember that the a needs to equal a 1. We talked about that in the last couple of videos. It can't equal 0, but it has to equal a 1. So this red a has to have our buddy the invisible 1 in front of it. And when this a is not a 1, if it's a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, -2, whatever, we can divide each term by that a to make it equal 1. If it's a 4, we just divide each term by 4. Then that 4 over 4 becomes a 1. 12x divided by 4 becomes a 3x. And the 8 divided by 4 becomes a 2. Wasn't that easy? And now we've got it set to equal 1. Now we can do whatever we need to do to solve it. So here we've got our quadratic formula of an equation, and I've got it color-coded. And you can see my a is red, my x is green, and my b is blue, and that's brown. I don't know if you can tell. And we solve by completing the square first. So just like I said, we're going to divide each term by a. So we're left with b over a and c over a as part of the equation, with our buddy the invisible 1 up here. And we need to get rid of this c over a. So we're going to subtract it from each side of the equation. We've done that every single time, haven't we? And if it was a minus c over a, we would add it, wouldn't we? That creates a 0 pair right there, and we end up with x² plus b over ax equals negative c over a. See that? We always take this one and divide it in half. We can divide it in half by multiplying it by a half. That's going to give us b over 2a. Then we need to square it, don't we? We did that in the last video. So to square this, the square is b squared over 4a squared. Okay? But we've got it like this for right now, and we need to put it on each side of the equation. Okay? Now we can square it and open it up, and we've got x² plus b divided by ax plus b squared divided by 4a squared, and it's going to equal this negative c over a plus this b squared over 4a squared. See? We've added it to each side of the equation. Now we're going to write the left side as a perfect square, and we're going to rearrange the right side. We're going to put this guy in front and this guy in the back. See? We kind of flipped them around. Now, we need to write these with a common denominator. So what can we multiply a by to get 4a squared? We can multiply it by 4a. And we multiply the numerator by 4a because it gets jealous. And we get negative 4ac over negative 4ac over 4a squared. Now, this has the same denominator as this guy because we multiplied him by 4a over 4a, see? So now they have the same denominator. We can just use one fraction bar and just put b squared minus this 4ac over the 4a squared. See? Do you see how I did that? I multiplied the numerator and denominator of this negative c over a by 4a over 4a so that it would have the same denominator as this one. And now it does, but the top part is a negative 4ac. That's the numerator, see? So, because this has 4a squared as a denominator, and that has 4a squared as a denominator, they can share the fraction line. And we put our b squared minus 4ac, there's the 4ac, there's the b squared, we put that as the numerator. Now, we're going to use the square root property that says we could take away these parentheses and that 2 exponent and flip a radical sign onto the guys on this side. And we do that. And we put the plus or minus, because we don't know if it's plus or minus. So now, this is our square root. And we see that we can rationalize the denominator as 2a times 2a. So where we're at now is we only need one of these, right? So we've got the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. And on this side, we've got the x plus b over a is equal to that plus or minus. So keep this in mind, how this looks, okay? This x plus b over a is on this side, and then we've got our square root over 2a on that side, all right? So here we are again. Same thing, x plus b over a on this side, and we've got our square root over 2a on this side. We want to isolate this x, so we're going to take this plus ba, and we're going to subtract ba from each side. That's going to create a zero pair here, and now we've got a negative b divided by a plus or minus this square root of b squared minus 4ac over the 2a, and you know what? That's the quadratic formula. Is that something? We did everything and brought it right to this quadratic formula. See? We've got our x equals b over a plus or minus. See that? Amazing how that happens, isn't it? So that's the quadratic formula, and that formula can help us solve any quadratic equation, all right? And this part right here, this b squared minus 4ac, that's called the discriminant. We're going to talk about that in the next video. In 13.4b, we're going to talk about the discriminant, those values underneath that radical sign on the left side, on the right side, I'm sorry. And if you want to go to any of the videos where we did binomial squares or the square root property, or when we did completing the square when a equaled 1 and when it didn't equal 1, and equations in the form of ax squared equals k, all of these are in the description of this video, just one click away, all right? If you had some trouble understanding this, you probably should go back to the beginning of 13, chapter 13 here, to 13.1, and start watching the videos, because you must have missed something, all right? And you could even go back further if you want. Anytime it mentions something that you don't know what it is, look in this list in the description for that video. Take 2-3 minutes of your time or 5 minutes of your time to watch it, and you'll go, oh, light bulb on your head, okay? I hope you're doing well, and I'll see you next video. Bye.